Hey, what's going on everyone? Matthew from therighttrader.com back today with another daily crypto update. Today we're going to go over our normal schedule in a more detailed technical analysis on TradingView in just a second. And what I wanted to talk about today is the fact that there may be still some resistance ahead. While cryptocurrencies are definitely improving day after day here for the past 2-3 days, we still have some pretty major resistance levels to get back above, and it's not going to be easy. So that's kind of what I wanted to point out today. I'm going to go over that in more detail, of course, in the technical analysis. But I just wanted to really make that a topic in this video because it's easy to want to get back in right away when things are starting to look good again. But I think that we're going to have to consolidate a little bit longer before truly being in a situation where we can return to a more bullish territory. Now, with that being said, I'm not here to give financial advice. I'm just here to share my opinion. The general market is definitely doing pretty good over the past 24 hours. As you can see, a lot of cryptocurrencies finally getting some pretty big moves, right? Up a good 5, 10, 15, sometimes even 20% across the board. And don't forget to follow me on Twitter for live cryptocurrency market updates. You can also check out my premium content if you want monthly cryptocurrency buying opportunities. Link to both of those things in the description of this video. And with that being said, let's start off the technical analysis with Bitcoin. You'll actually see a lot of similar patterns here throughout a lot of these cryptos, especially the big three. And what I wanted to point out here for Bitcoin is, as you can see, we have 3 really nice candlesticks after bouncing off the uptrend line. And as far as the bearish situation goes, that signal would be breaking out of the downtrend line. So that's pretty straightforward. Now, for now, that's not looking like it's going to happen. We are advancing positively towards the upside after getting this nice bounce. We're coming up on our first bit of resistance here. That's at $9,000. And keep in mind, we still have the downtrending Bollinger Bands and middle band, so that's going to add a little bit of added pressure on the price. And of course, our next major support level, resistance level is going to be the downtrend line. And that's really what we want to get out of to return to a bullish situation. Now, as you can see, we do have declining buying volume over the past 3 candlesticks, which means that that's a good indication that we might flip back a little bit and pull back, get some consolidation in. As for the RSI, it's actually looking pretty good. We're moving towards the 50 line, could face some resistance there. But what I really wanted to point out was the fact that, as I said, there's a lot of resistance levels ahead on the indicators as well. And once again, we're still in our symmetrical triangle formation between our 2 pink trend lines, and usually with this pattern we do end up reaching the end of it before either breaking towards the upside or downside, and that's where we truly know where we're going to be heading. That's at least in theory, and that's usually what happens. So even though it may look like we may break out of the downtrend a bit earlier than expected, and that's always a possibility, it's not necessarily likely, especially considering the current situation with the resistance ahead. So I'd say pretty likely that we end up seeing some consolidation between $8,000 and $9,000. And one of the biggest indications here that I wanted to point out is the fact that if we take a look at the MACD specifically, we can see that we're coming up on the orange line. So we're going to get an attempted crossover pretty shortly here. And of course, breaking back above the orange line and trending above it is going to be a very bullish signal. That's what we want to see to begin an uptrend usually, like we did in the past. But what you have to realize with that is usually the first time after we entered into a downtrend on the MACD, and usually for most indicators, the first time we start coming back up to turn bullish again, it usually fails. And this can be seen very clearly back here, right? Where we entered into our downtrend, we finally started to hook back up, a little bit of a bounce, and we failed to sustain that first crossover, right? So we then fell lower. The second time even, it failed as well. And it's only the third time that it actually held. Now, it may not take 3 times this time around. It could very well happen in 2. But usually there's a pretty low chance that the first time around we actually end up getting our big breakout and return to a bullish territory. Now, let's go over Ethereum, which is in somewhat of a similar situation as far as the indicators are concerned. Now, as you can see, it's definitely in a different situation as far as the price. We are in this downtrend still. We broke out of our symmetrical triangle formation back here. So in that sense, we're a little bit weaker. We're still holding about $500, which is good. We don't want to start moving below that. Indicators still a little bit weak. We want to see those start to come back up a bit more. And we are facing some resistance from our initial downtrend line here, the blue one. But our big downtrend line is going to be the red one right here. So I'd say we're probably going to break out of the blue one, but I'm expecting us not I don't think it's likely that we move higher than $625. We're probably going to put in some consolidation around this area until we reach the end of this little triangle, at which point we'll either break out of the downtrend line or back below $500 if the market is going to turn bearish. And Litecoin is actually looking maybe the best out of all the three, just based on how the chart is set up right now, because we're actually out of any kind of downtrend and we're holding above the uptrend line. So that's exactly what you want to see. Now, as for the indicators, they're starting to turn even more bullish. We broke out of our downtrend line on the RSI, the MACD and histogram coming back up as well. Buying volume pretty decent. And we're back above $165, which is very key. Keep in mind there is a good bit of resistance at around $170, $175. So we may struggle a bit with that. That's also pretty much in line with our middle band. So once again, a bit of resistance there. And I think what that comes down to is, while we do have a pretty clear path to $218 right now, I think that we're probably going to consolidate between $165 and possibly $218 at best. I'm expecting us to trade near the middle of this range, to be honest. So let's say in between $165 and maybe $200 at the most. Probably going to put in some consolidation here until we start to come up closer on the uptrend line, or the general market strengthens even more. And then I think Litecoin has a chance of starting to move, back above $200 and really start climbing to those higher levels again. But for now, just based on the fact that we still want to see the middle band and the Bollinger Bands flatten out a little bit to put in a bit of a base for the price, it just seems likely. And without that, it's going to be hard for the price to move higher this first time around. And same thing on the MACD, right? Keep in mind, this is our first attempt, and usually that fails, like I mentioned before. So let's take a look at Nano. Nano is back above 100,000 Satoshis. That's very good. That's exactly what we wanted to see. It temporarily dipped below that. And I'm expecting it to hold above 100,000 Satoshis. It could dip a little bit below that, but either way, we're probably going to remain near this 100,000 Satoshi level. Could go a little bit higher towards 110,000 Satoshis. But I think that we're going to need to put in, once again, a bit more consolidation, and we're going to need to wait for the market to really get that big breakout before we break out of our downtrend line, this one right here, and that's going to be our true signal, true bullish signal. Let's go over Nano now and see what Nano has been doing. Let's go over to Bittrex here. So Nano popped above that 65-cent resistance level. That is obviously a good sign. It's right now holding above it. Little bit of a red candlestick, but nothing to worry about for now. Indicators are trying to come back up, still struggling a little bit. And the Bollinger Bands, middle band, still slightly downtrending. What that tells me, especially seeing how the indicators are still struggling, we're probably going to see some consolidation between 65 cents and 84 cents. So pretty straightforward here as far as Ripple is concerned. Let's go over NEO and see what NEO has been doing. So very nice bounce for NEO. It actually looks like a pretty nice V-shaped bounce. We're continuing putting in higher highs, higher lows over the past 3 candlesticks. Very nice green candlesticks, and we're trying to get back above $75. As you can see, that's where we're struggling right now, is getting back above that $75 mark. We're coming back on the MACD and histogram. It's the first time that we'll attempt a crossover, so that could definitely fail. For NEO, I think that it's a little bit in a tricky situation because I could see it going several ways right now. I think that if the market pulls back a bit and we return to some pretty weak consolidation, then it could definitely fall back below the downtrend line, sorry, as of right now, because it just popped above it. I think that we may be able to get to $85. That would be a bit more bullish. I don't really see us going higher than that over the next week at least. And what that means is that we're probably going to put in either some consolidation around $75, maybe a little bit above that, or we're just going to trend a little bit lower along the downtrend line. I think that's a pretty likely scenario at this point. Let's go over Stellar and take a look at what's been going on. So we've actually been getting some pretty nice candlesticks. Once again, as you can see by the longer upper wick over here on the current candlestick, we're struggling getting back above 3,000 Satoshis, which is expected. That is a big resistance level. Indicators not looking too bad. We're actually starting to turn back up. We want to make sure that we continue at least a slight uptrend. For now, it's looking like that's going to happen. And as for also keep in mind that means that we've pretty much been out of the downtrend. So that's something that's good. The price has still been struggling. Now finally starting to try to push higher. A little bit of a decreasing buying volume, nothing to worry about really. I just think that it's looking a little bit tricky to get back above $3,000 right now. Possibly, if the market gets a little bit of a bump, we may be able to get back in the range between 3,000 and 3,500 Satoshis. But at this point, I'd say that we're likely to consolidate between 2,600 and 3,000 Satoshis, at least for the next week, until the market gets a stronger, boost, basically. Let's go over Vertcoin now and see what Vertcoin has been up to. So Vertcoin is currently making some progress here, moving back towards its downtrend line, also coming up on a positive crossover on the MACD and histogram. Very nice bounce on the RSI, now out of the downtrend, going back towards that 40 line. And those are all positive signs, but I think that since this is the first attempt of getting out of this downtrend here in the short term, I think that we're probably going to reject it and move a little bit lower again, maybe towards $1.90 as we reach the end of the symmetrical triangle, sorry, not a symmetrical triangle formation, this end of this little triangle over here, at which point we're either going to break out of the downtrend or move below $1.54. Let's go over our next crypto, which is going to be Lisk, and see what Lisk has been doing. So Lisk is currently moving higher here. It's got a pretty nice bounce off that $12.15 level. And one very interesting sign is that we actually got a positive crossover above the MACD and histogram. We've been waiting on that. So for now, it's just the beginning. We want to make sure that that pans out a bit more, but that's a very good sign. And as for the RSI, looking pretty good here, slowly but surely trending higher. It looks like the price is probably going to continue to move a little bit higher, up to along $15. I think there's going to be some resistance there based on the middle band, and just $15. You can see that there was some previous resistance levels there, so I'm actually going to put in a horizontal blue resistance level so you get a better idea of where that is right now. But definitely likely that that's going to be a bit of resistance level. If we see that that's the case, we're probably going to see some consolidation between $12.15 and $15. At best here over the next 2 weeks, I think that we could make a move to $17.46, but we're going to need to put in a little bit of a base, and we're going to have to count on the market getting some more strength to break out of the downtrend a little bit earlier than expected. Because one thing that's interesting, and we don't fully know what this means just yet for Lisk, but in this particular situation, our end of our little triangle formation is actually pretty far out compared to a lot of other cryptocurrencies. So we'll see, maybe it'll get a lot of strength and break out earlier than expected, or it may put in a bit of a longer consolidation than expected. It's too early to tell, unfortunately, as right now what's going to happen. But let's go over Cardano and take a look at what it's been doing. So we are making some progress here. We're out of the downtrend line. That is very significant. Slow but steady uptrend that's in the making right now in the MACD and histogram, and the RSI broke above 30, that 30 line. We have very, very tight Bollinger Bands, which tells me that we're probably going to experience some consolidation, and we'll have to see how long that'll last, but it's probably going to be some pretty tight consolidation between most likely 2,000 and 2,500 Satoshis. We're going to have to put in a bit of a base here before we can finally move back up. But let's go over our last cryptocurrency of the daily crypto update. That is going to be IOTA, and we're making some pretty good progress here. We are back above. We've got positive crossovers on the MACD and histogram, basically. We're above the 40 line on the RSI, making some pretty nice progress there towards that 50 line, and good buying volume to support the move higher. We are coming up on our first bit of resistance, which is $1.47. That's also in line with our middle band, so a lot of resistance there. We'll see if we're able to get back above that. Just to keep things simple based on the range here, I'd say it's likely that we see some consolidation between $1.10 and $1.91. That is a pretty big range. Of course, if we're able to get back above $1.47, then we'll trade in the upper level of this range. And if we struggle to get back above that level, we'll probably trade in the lower level of this range. With that being said, this is the end of the daily crypto update. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.